Welcome to Hood Champion Boxing and Sports. In boxing, you find a way to win or you find a way to lose. There's been a lot of talk about Deontay Wilder and his emotional breakdown this past weekend after the Hellenius fight. And some people are taking this opportunity to make fun of Deontay Wilder and to just overall make light of a situation that I personally don't think is funny. But I've noticed with Deontay Wilder, when he's talking now, even before the fight, in his interviews, he sounds different. Now, I'm still looking forward to when he starts preparing for Andy Ruiz, because all that's been activated now with the WBC for Deontay Wilder and Andy Ruiz to fight. And then Deontay Wilder is going to beat him. Then he's going to go fight Tyson Fury again. It's a whole nother ball of wax, okay? But I'm looking forward to hearing more from Deontay Wilder, because I myself, I want to really understand what is at the crux of his emotional state. What is going on inside of him, or has been going on inside of him since the third Tyson Fury loss, that's caused him to become such an emotional person. And he's always been emotional, but it's two extremes. Okay, we've seen him more on the aggressive side, wants to seek, destroy, and be the, what did you say, one face, one name, right? And now we're seeing him to the other opposite extreme, where it's more loving everyone. He still wants to, impose his dominance and become the undisputed heavyweight champion, but he's given himself a certain amount of time to get that done. But I honestly, I think I have an idea of what is behind all the crying. When he started talking about, he's always talked about boxers and how they don't play boxing. They put their lives on the line to give us entertainment. Okay? He's always talked about that, but he's never cried. His voice has never even cracked. If anything, he seems to be getting worked up and angry. The fact that maybe some people don't feel fighters deserve the money they make. And Deontay Wilder feels fighters deserve a lot more than what they make, right? But I honestly believe Deontay Wilder, when he started talking about Pritchard Cologne, I feel Deontay Wilder, there have been conversations. Now, I don't know any of this, so for any of you cockleholes who want to say you don't know what you're talking about, look, it's my opinion, okay? So we're entitled to our own opinions. We're not entitled to our own facts. So I'm just giving an opinion. I've been around for a while. I've dealt with a lot of people. I've dealt with a lot of different situations. Not only my own, but a lot of people. Okay? At one point, I was indirectly responsible for over 2,000 people. And when you're sitting in a position like that, you have so many different cases come across your desk or your phone rings with, and people want to get your opinion. And when certain things come to you, especially if you're not an expert on it, then you go and you consult with the experts. You have a conversation, and then kind of decide what direction to go. Okay, so I've been around the block, and I'm not just talking boxing, all right? But for me sitting here with my background, right? And I watch him, I honestly feel Deontay Wilder really worries about what's going to show up as far as his health long term as a result of the Fury fights. Because prior to that, Deontay Wilder didn't really take any punishment. I think we can all agree, okay? Yeah, him and Gerald Washington mixed it up a little bit. He got in there. Luis Ortiz kind of binged him first couple fights. Nothing too crazy. But it was the Tyson Fury fights, okay? But I honestly think he's very concerned about what's going to happen to him down the road because of what he was subject to in those 3 fights. He took a lot of shots. First fight, he was getting buzzed in a couple of those rounds. Just Tyson Fury wasn't really being super aggressive, wasn't really trying to finish him off. He would look like he'd buzz him, maybe get him a little hurt. Tyson Fury would take his foot off the gas and go back to boxing. Second and third fights, we kind of know what the deal was. But when you get hit like that, and for Deontay Wilder to be a guy who seems to really be a student of the sport of boxing, and especially has taken an interest in fighters' well-being and those kind of horror stories of certain fighters who either died in the ring, or over a period of time developed certain illnesses. I think one of the most well-known cases would be Muhammad Ali and Parkinson from shots he took. You can look at Freddie Roach, and there are others. Okay, but those are just really the more known, well-known cases of fighters who just took some damage and things showed up. But when you look at Deontay Wilder, I really feel he thinks about himself as a father, and the reason why he started boxing. And I think there have been conversations about, hey, need to go, and maybe there's certain tests and evaluations that he chooses to get done maybe every 3 months, semi-annually, maybe annually now, that maybe he wasn't doing before, just to make sure if there's any side effects from those shots he took, that they can flag it early and converge on it and try to develop a plan of action and mitigate, well, either resolve it, mitigate, prolong, or something to ensure it doesn't get to a point to where he's now, incoherent or can't live his normal lifestyle. When you tie that into the fact that he has, several children, beautiful family, and I think when he started talking about Pritchard Cologne, I really think he kind of almost could have seen himself in Pritchard Cologne's shoes. And then when he started talking about kids, let me tell you, that's the love he has for his children. That's what came out right there. Because he loves his kids. So when he started just thinking about the idea of this man, who was an excellent boxer, right? And all those rabbit punches. Now, if you guys haven't watched that fight where Pritchard Cologne was fighting and he was taking those shots, right? Y'all need to watch it. Because a lot of those shots he was getting hit with in the back of the head repeatedly, over and over, getting elbowed, roughhouse tactics by his opponent. It was so bad at a point where Pritchard Cologne hit the guy a low blow. And when the referee came to talk to him, he told the referee, he keeps hitting me in the back of my head. And the referee wouldn't do anything. Nothing. So Pritchard Cologne took it upon himself to hit the guy with a low blow. After that, the guy went back to beating him and hitting him in the back of the head, fouling him, being dirty. And Pritchard Cologne was, dizzy. You could tell something was wrong, and then eventually what happened in that fight, okay? So with Deontay Wilder, if you watch that Pritchard Cologne fight, and you watch Deontay Wilder in that second Fury fight and that third Fury fight, although he was fighting back, but you watch those fights, and you watch how he was getting hit, those shots he was getting hit with, and you watch that Pritchard Cologne fight, which Deontay Wilder, in my opinion, he should have never watched that fight. I think he watched it. He didn't say he watched it. He just knows the guy's story. But I think he watched that fight. I don't know this. I'm just assuming, right? But if he did watch that fight, I'm going to say that's the worst thing he could have done. Because a lot of the stuff that was happening to Pritchard Colon in that fight was happening to Deontay Wilder in his fight with Tyson Fury. All right? And it's very unfortunate. But I really think Deontay Wilder is very concerned about if he's going to be in his current state 5 years down the road, 10 years down the road. I think he's very concerned about when are those signs going to show up: hand twitching, being forgetful, slurred speech, blurred vision. Like, when is that stuff going to start to show up? And one thing I can tell you, because, I'm 47, I'll just tell you, at a certain age, eyesight starts to go a little bad. And that has nothing to do with me getting hit in the head boxing. I went to the doctor because all of a sudden, reading, everything's blurry, running together. I'm sitting back watching TV. Everything looks a little bit fuzzy. Suddenly, I have to wear glasses now. Go to the doctor, a little bit concerned. He said it just happens with age. Nothing you can do about it. So, now imagine Deontay Wilder. Similar situation like me. At some point, you have to wear a little bit of glasses. But it's not just going to be a routine checkup, laugh at the doctor, hey man, yeah, my ass getting old, whatever, got to wear glasses. His concerns could go way deeper than that. Okay? And he has to live with that. And one thing I'll tell you, it's like my dad told me, you can't leave your mind behind. So whatever you worry about, good or bad, okay? Wherever you go in this world, if you're trying to escape the bad, if you want to keep those positive thoughts with you, it doesn't matter where you go, your mind is with you. You can't leave that stuff behind. That's why you have to deal with it. And with Deontay Wilder and me watching him cry like that, I know for a fact he feels for Pritchard Colon. And I know for a fact it hit home the fact that this man is not going to be able to have kids or never know what it's like to be a father. And it's just a horrible situation. With the breadwinner, or may or may not have been the breadwinner. His parents take care of him. He was up and coming, so he had there's a lot of potential for success. He was on his way. But when Deontay Wilder thinks about that, it hits home to him because he is all those things, He has all those things. Was able to accomplish those things that Pritchard Colon was on his way to accomplishing. But for Deontay Wilder, this is my opinion now, I really think it gets to him. Just the idea of, man, because of what I'm doing, there's always a possibility that I may not be able to come back to my kids the way I left the house, or what they consider daddy as normal. Now, I'm going to tell you for myself, man, if I start talking about my children, depending on the subject, but if it's about something like how children are treated, maybe there was somebody who I felt wasn't fair to my kids in sports, or did something just to be malicious. If I start talking about that, I'll get emotional because I'll get angry, and that emotion will come out. So when I saw Deontay Wilder talking about that, getting emotional, I felt that shit. Like I caught myself like I was walking in the morning listening to it, and I caught myself like, damn, I almost cried, and I was like, okay, these are raw, genuine feelings, and it took me back to, like I said, about my own sons. I have 4, but there was a situation, and whenever I talk about that situation, I find my voice cracking. It's like, shit, I can't even talk about it, so I just don't. But for this man to do that in front of the cameras, I'd have to commend him for that because, man, it's not easy to show those kind of emotions. But I genuinely feel Deontay Wilder he's gonna press along because he really feels that he's a leader. He really feels that he's here to inspire and motivate and is more is more important for him to come out here and inspire and give people hope than him just sitting back and being comfortable, which he can do. And he talks about Muhammad Ali and how that's his idol. I think Deontay Wilder is really trying to assume that role and be that kind of be that figure, somewhat similar like Muhammad Ali. And I think he can do it. But man, that takes a toll on you. Like, you got to be really mentally prepared for something like that, because it's not easy out here, man. Especially with social media and all these clowns who get on here, man, and just want to take 10 seconds out the day to throw 1 or 2 line bullshit comments under every post and just think the shit is funny. But I honestly feel he's worried about what could possibly happen. Just the potential of him starting to break down over the years, mentally and physically, because of what he does to provide for his family. Like, let's just face it, this man has generated or created generational wealth. Okay, and to come into the sport so late, his motivation for coming to boxing, what he's been able to achieve, it's just an emotional roller coaster. Just everything about Deontay Wilder is just very inspirational. But it's a lot of emotion behind everything. So that's genuinely what I think is going on with him. I think when he looks at any situation, especially when it deals with someone not being able to be there with their kids or to not have children or whatever the reason is, it hits home with him. Because I genuinely feel every day, which like most of us do as parents, we worry about our kids, you know what I'm saying? But I think for Deontay Wilder, that those fights with Tyson Fury, and especially the fact that he genuinely, he says he has facts and everything, but he genuinely feels, and he said he'll take it to his grave, that it wasn't fair play in those fights. There was some shady business, and when he looks at that, that gets him worked up, and can't blame him. But that being said, let's see how things look going into the Andy Ruiz fight. And, Wilder cried to Helenius, apologizing. And again, when he was apologizing, he was, again, talking about worried about Helenius not being around for his kids, worried about Helenius not being able to provide for his family. The fact he had to do that to his friend, but this is the line of work. This is the business they chose. This is their occupation, and knowing how powerful he is, that he can hurt somebody. It's like he wants to do his job, and it's almost like, he'd rather just hit somebody in one shot, knock him out, and get over with, opposed to just repeatedly pummeling them, and then these people are never the same. Now, I'm going to tell you right now, before I end this video, right, because I'm going to do a video about this guy, Joe Joyce. Joe Joyce is someone who I do not want to see in there with Deontay Wilder. I think Joe Joyce has a good chance of beating anybody because of his chin. Okay? But I do not want to see Joe Joyce in there with Deontay Wilder because Joe Joyce has a good chin, and more than likely he's going to take some shots from Deontay Wilder, and the type of shots he's going to get hit with could put him or surrender him in a horrible situation. And that I don't want to see. So I'd rather see Deontay Wilder in there with someone who doesn't have a chin, so he can touch him, boom, bing, bing, get him out of there. Opposed to someone like Joe Joyce who can take shots and maybe he doesn't get out the ring. And I know we're talking about a lot about lives and stuff, but that's the reality of boxing, man. Boxing is no joke. And this is something that's a real concern for Deontay Wilder. But again, I think when you really peel the layers back, at the nucleus of all this it has everything to do with Deontay Wilder's concern about his long-term health and whether he's going to be able to be there for his kids and his grandkids. I genuinely think that's his concern. And he has every right to be concerned because he took a lot of shots. Now, I don't know anything about CAT scans, if there was anything that when he went to the doctors, if they saw something on his brain, I don't know anything about that. Never heard anything about that. Don't know anything about that. I just know with Deontay Wilder, whether you like him or not, whether you want to keep dwelling in the past, but all the things he said, right? It seems to be that he's all about the saying I heard growing up my whole life, family, religion, something that was always said, love for all, hate for none. And I'm going to say that again, love for all, hate for none. And I really think Deontay Wilder that's really the movement he's on right now. Loving everyone, hating no one, and just moving forward. But if that's the case, you're going to have to let go of some stuff, man, to move forward. But it's not going to be easy. But that being said, that's what I think is really behind the emotional breakdown post-fight after Hellenius. And that's what I think is really bothering the champ. I think he's really worried about what the hell is going on with me or going to happen with me over the next few years, 5, 10, 20 years, as a result of those shots he took, standing up to Tyson Fury and refusing to fold. That being said, y'all keep cool. I appreciate your support. Shout out to everybody from all 7 continents. Shout out to the veterans. Y'all keep cool, and as always, in the breeze.